David, who worked as a project manager, traveled frequently on business trips. Although he was well compensated for them, these trips became more difficult after he got married. He found it difficult to be away from his wife for extended periods of time, especially since she was often upset and made a scene before each trip. Despite David's explanations that he had no choice and liked his job, his wife, Avery, would pack a suitcase, threaten to leave for her mother's house, and cause drama. As a result, David would apologize, bring her home, and calm her down. One day during lunch with a coworker, David was asked why he tolerated Avery's behavior. The coworker offered to put her in her place, but David found it pointless to explain to a single man all the complexities of married life. Despite all the difficulties after 2 years of marriage, Avery surprised David with the news that she was pregnant. He was happy about this unexpected development and was sure that they had the means to provide for the future child. 9 months later, a beautiful baby girl named Eleanor came into their lives. After the birth, Avery's behavior softened, and she devoted herself to caring for her daughter, leaving little time for arguments with her husband. As Eleanor grew older, however, Avery's old habits reasserted themselves. During one of David's business trips, a heated argument resulted in Avery angrily scattering his belongings from an open suitcase in the entryway, causing a ruckus that woke their daughter. Regretting her outburst, Avery later apologized to David, admitting her tendency to impulsive reactions. Despite their disagreements, their love for each other remained strong, as evidenced by moments of intimate reconciliation. When David decided to leave his current job and start a new one that would allow him to be home more often, Avery was thrilled. She had long wished her husband would put his family first rather than his demanding career, and his decision brought her joy. After returning from his last business trip, David treated Eleanor to ice cream at a cafe, growing closer to her and treasuring the time they spent together. As they drove back from daycare, Eleanor jokingly shared a secret with her father, further strengthening the father-daughter bond. He had expected to hear a story about a boy his daughter had a crush on, or a mischievous prank she had pulled. The revelation that came to him, however, stunned him. "Daddy," his daughter told him, "when you're not home, Mommy picks me up from kindergarten with her friend, Uncle Matthew. Sometimes Mommy invites him to visit us." David asked his daughter sternly, hoping it was a joke, but deep down he was already seething with anger. David pondered for a long time what he should do about this disturbing discovery, contemplating how to confront his wife about her possible infidelity. Seeking solace, he confided in his friend Andrew. Andrew offered to hire a detective to follow his wife for a week. "What if she doesn't meet him when I'm around?" David voiced his concerns. David voiced his concerns. David voiced his concerns, to which Andrew chuckled. "Don't be naive. They probably don't care if they get caught. The only difference is that they might try to cover it up when you're around." Upon reflection, David agreed to Andrew's suggestion and did as he was advised. The next 2 weeks were nerve-wracking for him. Surprisingly, Avery remained calm and did not provoke conflict. The day came when David had to listen to the detective's report of his findings. The detective suggested a discreet meeting in the underground parking lot of the mall so as not to attract attention. David was sitting in his car waiting anxiously when a quiet knock on the window startled him. "Hello, David." A man dressed in a stylish blue coat greeted him. Holding out an envelope to David, he explained that it was unsealed. David hesitantly asked, "What's inside?" "Take a look and see for yourself," the detective replied. David opened the envelope and pulled out a stack of photographs. The pictures were taken at different locations in the city, each with the date and time in the corner. the man pictured in the photos, along with his wife, was unfamiliar to David. "You didn't recognize his name?" the husband inquired. David was told that all the necessary information was in the envelope, and indeed, a piece of paper inside contained the man's name, place of employment, and other personal information. David realized that Avery's lover, Matthew, was actually her coworker. How long had they been together? How long had Avery been deceiving her husband? David settled up with the detective, said his goodbyes, and headed home. He purposely took his daughter to his parents' house to shield her from confronting Avery. When he arrived home, Avery was already waiting for him. Without changing his clothes, David made his way into the kitchen and dumped a stack of photos on the table. The pictures showed Avery and Matthew doing all sorts of things, from kissing to intimate gestures. Avery looked at the pictures and then met her husband's gaze, showing no remorse. "Are you crazy to be stalking me?" she stated cheekily. David was stunned by his wife's unexpected reaction. He'd hoped she'd lose her temper or apologize, but she admitted that she'd wanted to leave him for a long time and planned to come clean soon. Avery grinned at the fact that the money had been spent on a detective and carelessly tossed the photos to the floor. "David, give me a week to pack," she said, but when he suggested one day, she declared that was enough and confidently prepared to leave. David, feeling defeated, was puzzled by Avery's behavior and couldn't understand why she had manipulated him for so long. He forced her to sign a document granting him sole custody of their daughter Eleanor. Despite Avery's promise to visit Eleanor, she never showed up again. After their separation, Avery did not stay with Matthew and often appeared in the company of various men, often intoxicated. David was relieved deep down when the truth was revealed, and Avery was no longer involved in his life or his daughter's life, as he didn't want Eleanor to fall under the influence of someone like his ex-wife. David continued to struggle with his ex-wife's betrayal and didn't look for a new partner. Instead, he and Eleanor traveled frequently and treasured the time they spent together. Eleanor's grandmother fulfilled the role of mother, bringing happiness to all. Once, as a teenager, Eleanor asked about her mother, and after learning the truth from David, she assured him that he had made the right decision. Sometimes a moment of clarity is all it takes to live a happy life.